Hi guys, it's Joe. I'm here with Mark Kline on Truth Be Told by Everyday People. And as you know, as I say before, we're on location this time. My dogs are not here, but Mark has dogs and birds. So if you're hearing that, that's fine because things go wrong for everyday people and I don't cut stuff out. Mark here has a little different story than we normally have. And as you know, I say this is a non-political show. But Mark was pulled into a game of darkness, a game of hatred, a game of fear, a game of chess when he met somebody. And I'm going to, instead of going through the way I normally do, asking people about their lives beforehand, because Mark has so much information to give, we're going to go right to Mark. So how did you meet the woman?
Match.com.
Match.com, okay.
No, you know what? I mean, it was. I didn't know the full scope of things, and I never will, of what happened. We met, and we got along. We just kept talking, kept being together, and she would open up little things to me over time, and it was over. No. Okay, we're done. No.
Quick.
She started telling me some of her story. Not there was a lot that she couldn't tell me. So I've been listening to things for years before I met her and everything else, and some could call it conspiracy theories. Some could, you can call it whatever you want. And I just listened to what she said, and indirectly she started to make sense. I started putting things together about stuff going on, and I would ask questions once in a while, and the more specific I got, the bigger the fight we had. And
Okay.
what's that saying? You receive the most flack. You receive the most flack when you're right over the target.
Right.
And so that's sort of what was happening, and. So we're walking the dogs one day out front over here, and she had told me that because I knew she was orphaned at a young age.
Okay.
She was one of triplets, and she had an older brother, and they were from part of India, and her two sisters and her parents were killed by a drunk driver.
Oh boy.
And so her and her brother got thrown into the foster system in New Jersey. And I don't know much about the foster system other than what what we've read and what we've seen, or unless somebody who's been in it. And she told me just some horrible things, and in that culture, not knocking the culture. It's just, telling her what she told me, and what I've known for many years is that girls don't have much of a value.
Okay.
I mean, the parents have to pay to give the daughter away to the husband.
No.
Now, I mean, that's our way of looking at it, so I'm sure someone's going to get mad at me for what I'm saying, but that's their problem, not mine. Her brother got adopted by family friends. And she didn't. She was sent to the wolves and was groomed to be a prostitute by the age of 9.
Ah.
But she was a genius, really smart, and ended up getting her MBA and everything else, and using what she learned to help benefit her. And she had a internal resume of who, what, when, and where, because from my understanding, again, she didn't tell me a lot of this. I could just tell when I asked certain questions. And one thing she told me, she goes, "I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just not going to answer some of these questions when you ask me them." Which started to tell me which ones, when she would answer certain things, I could tell, and other things, she would just say, I'm not answering that.
Okay.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
And there were several things that I liked. She was a genius, good at business, very good head on her shoulders as far as that goes. And then there was the other side, which was confirming a lot of things that I had, heard about and only read about. But you think, oh, come on. Does that really happen? That happens over there. You don't see that happen, you know.
Yeah, it doesn't happen in America.
Yeah. Well, no, I know what happens here. You just don't see it happening.
Right.
You know.
But that's what people want to close their eyes and say, no.
Yeah. And I mean, the shadows. There was a house around the corner there was some stuff going on.
Really?
Yeah. I all of a sudden the police were all out there, you know, one morning, and I found out there was something going. I don't know totally what. I don't know if it was drugs or trafficking or.
Okay.
Not really sure, but I just didn't want to dig because I didn't want to be on anybody's radar.
Well,
more than I already was.
You end up getting from the trafficking, because that's when their radar came on you, to put it that way.
Well, what happened was after a couple of years, you know, together. So you remember when Cyprus had their banking issue?
Yeah.
So my understanding is. In Cyprus, so American oligarchs put their money in the Caymans. Other countries put it in Cyprus.
Okay.
And so that was a takedown of those oligarchs. That was to try to halt some of their money flow.
Okay.
Who was doing it? I don't know. You know, she had put money there she wasn't supposed to put there. She had to get back in what she called the game.
Okay.
You know, and she kept, I got to get my head in the game, and things like that. I kept referring to it like that. So, you know, eventually, one time I went to her house. She had done something for me one time, and I had a copy of it because she had sent me a receipt, which had her address on it. So I knew where to go.
Okay.
To look for her because she wasn't answering the phone and there was a lot of stuff going on. So I went there and she finally came outside and she was like, "What are you doing here?" And she was like looked scared to death. Oh. And so, you know, I mean, for me, and then after that I was finally like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep, you know, this was going on for a couple of years, and I sort of stepped away from my family and everything else because I didn't want anybody to know what was going on. I didn't want to be questioned about things. I didn't want to expose anything going on with her and put anybody else in any danger. You know, that if something happened to me, then something happened to me, and then that was hopefully the end of it. Yeah. I was resigned to that fact that if that happened, that happened.
And they were out looking for you.
Well, they were parked outside that one night, and you know, and I, you know, with the dogs here and other things that I had here to protect myself with, I legally, of course, and nothing happened because she ended up calling them off. But I knew before that they were watching me, and you know. So
did you have any idea who was watching you?
No, but she told me that I was being watched and shut up on Facebook about certain things and all this stuff. This is even before that.
Okay.
You know, and maybe they'd come in when I had the karate school. Maybe they'd even come in just to inquire about classes, but not inquiring about classes, to just check me out.
Okay.
You know, you get a lot of people coming in and out of the door and everything else. So I decided to write a book on it, and this was the first book. And
it's a good book. I've read it. You'll enjoy that book.
So,
Game of Souls.
Yeah. And you know, and I published it because maybe some of it was therapy. It's just to get it out.
And you went to a second one after that, right?
Yeah, the second book. Well, what I had a court case. So it was something I learned about 15 years ago. Did you ever go to Striking Fist in Woodbridge?
No.
Okay. So, and he had to close it last year because of COVID.
Oh.
Closed it almost a year ago. And well, he started telling me a long time ago. I'll even ask you. Do you have the title to your car?
No.
Did you ever have a title to your car?
No.
I already told you about that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You gave me those answers, all right?
Yeah. So you'll never have the title to your car. They give you a certificate of title, which says, here's a piece of paper that says your title sits somewhere else. It's evidence of a security. That's really what it is.
Okay. And what is the purpose of that? Not giving you...
It gives them an interest in your thing.
Oh, okay.
And the thing is really the title. When they foreclose on something, the house or the car or whatever is the collateral, but the real thing that they want is the piece of paper because that's what they monetize.
Okay.
So I had so there's things called CUSIP numbers that go along with your with every bond in the United States. They're traded internationally, I believe. But I don't know if there's a different thing in Europe on what they call them. But any bond has what's called a CUSIP number, CUSIP. I can't remember what it stands for off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I have the CUSIP numbers for and everything. A court case is bonded. Your birth certificate is bonded. Your mortgage is bonded. Any financial instrument is bonded.
Okay.
And my birth certificate alone is worth $9 billion.
Really? Huh.
And that's the first birth certificate. The second one is the municipal one. The mother gives the registration of birth. That one's worth $9 billion. Then they give you back one with the all caps name neatly printed like the abstract. That one's worth $6 billion.
Now, how does that come about? They
They
put
put them together in tranches.
But what's it make it worth so much?
They're trading it somewhere.
They're trading it somewhere. Really?
So it's evidence that the paper is a security. That's what floats government debt.
Oh.
That we are. Have you ever seen have you ever gotten a birth certificate or any type of security or any type of paper you send down to Trenton and have them what's called apostille it?
Okay.
Apostille. They put an allonge on top, which an allonge means an extended endorsement. They attach that to it, and it says something like the attestations given heretofore are to be given full faith and credit. Isn't our monetary system based on full faith and credit?
Right.
That means it's a monetary instrument as such, or evidence of a security.
Okay.
So, we are the product. That's why they can take the kids. They can do this. When you get married, you get a marriage license.
Yeah.
What does license mean? The legal definition of license means given permission to do something that is otherwise considered unlawful. What? Wait, so driving a car without a license is... Why am I getting permission? I thought I had a right to travel.
Right.
You do have the right to travel. Driving is a different thing. A driver is one who is moving passengers or goods for hire. When you're traveling, you traveled here today.
Right.
You just drove here.
Right.
That's how you drive. You traveled in a conveyance. It doesn't matter whether it's horse-drawn, mechanized, or whatever. You were just coming here for pleasure,
Right.
in essence. If you're going to eat, unless you're doing Uber or Lyft or something like that, that is a commercial endeavor. Do you ever see a car that says not for hire on the car?
Yes.
Why would they put that on there? Yeah, because they're telling
Never
whoever,
thought about it.
Exactly. They're telling whoever this isn't a commercial thing, but they give you a driver's license to say it's commercial.
So
It's quasi-commercial.
Okay. So you don't have the driver's license.
I have a driver's license.
Okay. How does that go about what you were just saying? If you have a license,
I have it. I just don't use it. If I get pulled over, I give them my passport. I'm traveling.
Okay.
They get mad. They don't like it. And then you make the ticket go away afterwards. There's ways to do that. And I'm not giving legal advice or anything else, but there's ways to do that, and on how to we call standing on your square or standing on your paperwork. And actually, when I signed my driver's license, I did write non-assumpsit on it, which means no contract.
Okay.
Because the driver's license is a unilateral contract. Who else the signature on? Isn't the contract supposed to have two signatures?
Yeah.
Well, who else the signature's on it? Nobody's. It's a certificate. Okay, so when you go to a CVS or any store and you want to get like over the counter Advil or whatever, they have to get from the pharmacy.
Right.
What do they ask you for? Driver's license.
Do they?
Yeah, and they scan it.
I don't remember.
Yeah. DMV's making money off that transaction.
Really? That's interesting.
I don't like that, so I give them my passport card.
Okay.
And they get mad because they have to enter in all these numbers, and that's not my problem. I'm not allowing DMV to make money off this transaction.
I should just go get what do you call it? Not the driver's license. What do you use?
passport card.
Passport card.
Yeah. So I redid my passport and I ordered a passport card as
Okay.
well.
That's
And
interesting.
so, so there's different ways to go about doing things, and so I had a court case, and it was they want. Well, here's what's also interesting. It's I think it's 27 CF Code of Federal Regulations 72.11, somewhere along those lines. It says all crimes are commercial.
All crimes are commercial.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. I've never heard that statement.
You ever been in court and sat there throughout the whole thing where you were listening to when the judge gives the fines and fees?
We used to do that just for the heck of it.
Okay, yeah. So you were jaywalking. It's $3.50 for this, $7 for this. Why am I paying you if all crimes are commercial? A ticket is the equivalent of prostituting yourself.
Really?
You didn't know you were a prostitute.
I didn't know that. I'm not making a lot of money at it. I had said to her I thought of becoming a love broker.
So the all crimes are commercial. So when I was in court, my brother was with. Well, the first time, and that's how this book, A Game of Names, opens up, because they're playing games with our names.
Okay.
And so the judge said to me, "You a U.S. citizen?" I said, "I don't know." He says, "You don't know?" I said, "No, I've never been able to verify it." Have you ever verified your status as a citizen, or have you gone on the presumption of what they said?
I never looked at it.
Therefore, you just accepted what somebody else said. They said, "You're a U.S. citizen," okay, and you check off the box. So legally, you swore under perjury that you were a U.S. citizen without even having full knowledge of that.
Right.
Just because somebody said so. And so I just said, "I've never been able to verify it." And he looks at me, he goes, "Were you born in New Jersey?" I said, "I don't know, I was too young, I wasn't paying attention." That's actually what came out of my mouth. And I'm sure my brother, who was sitting behind me, was just sitting there going like this. And but I knew what the judge was doing. He was trying to gain what's called subject matter jurisdiction. And then he said, "Were you born February 25th?" And I said, "Same thing. I was too young. I wasn't paying attention." And his left eye was twitching. And he was getting, you could see he's just like, and I almost started laughing. I was trying not to. It reminded me of the Pink Panther with Inspector Dreyfus. Whenever Clouseau came around, the inspector was going nuts. And he screamed at me. He goes, "If you were born in New Jersey, it makes you a U.S. citizen." I said, "Well, if you say so." He can't say so.
Right.
And I didn't agree to it. They need your understanding. So if you and I are gonna enter into a contract, what do we need?
An understanding between the two of us.
Yeah, that's right. And then and the word understanding also means contract.
Right.
So if we say, okay, we have an understanding, yes, okay, good, it's understood then, right? So you see the word game?
Yeah.
Okay, so and the contract could be done verbally or orally.
Right.
That's the same thing. Sorry, on paper.
Paper. I know what you meant.
Yeah, and so I meant to say informally, orally, and then reduced to writing.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I just look at her now and I said, "Mark, you're giving us permission to film you," right?
That's right.
So we have an agreement.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be signed out on a piece of paper. So.
Not always, and it depends on the state and how it's done and things like that. Every time they call you on the phone, for whoever it is. Sorry, she's snoring.
No, don't worry about it. She's not knocking things down. My dog would be ripping through the house already.
Well, every time they call you on the phone and they, this goes on a recorded line and blah blah blah. I just say, well, I don't consent to being recorded, and if you want to continue to record me before we can start, it's going to cost you X number of dollars, for this. How would you like to pay me? And they're like, well, I said, anything you need to say, you can send through the United States mail. And then I can fill out a UNS form. P.S. It's postal form 8165, which is mail fraud. They won't be sending you much mail after that. And if it's an attorney, you might as well just send them to a bar grievance against them.
Okay.
As well. So there's a lot of ways to put them on the defensive instead of just sitting, "Oh, what I got? What am I going to do? What am I going to do?" I hardly get any mail now.
We're not delivering mail there.
Some of the one woman at the post office is afraid of me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, and I just, she hasn't been rude, but her supervisor was one day. It was extremely rude, and so I contacted her supervisors. You know, and I put in a formal complaint. I haven't seen her there lately, so I don't know what's going on with her, and I really don't care because I don't want to see her.
Okay.
And you know, but the most of them, when you go in there, even the supervisor one day, I got a certified letter in the mail last year during COVID. I didn't sign for it, and the green card was still attached.
Okay.
That's a big no. They screwed up. You don't mess with the mail.
Right.
And the postal office, not the postal service, which was created under Title 39 in 1971 under Nixon. The post office was 1755. The original one, I think, was 1755, and then it was recreated again after, in the new country. But that's higher. The post office comes first before the seat of government of the United States.
Really?
And so that they have a bigger role than people realize.
Well, I think we've seen that the last couple of years. All of a sudden, there was postal police.
They've been around for a long time.
And I've never heard of them before that.
Oh no, I send stuff to the Inspector General. Right? That's who I send the mail fraud stuff to. But I don't mail it. I go into the post office and give them my copy. I give them the original. I have them bop a copy, which is they use to cancel the stamps. Now I have a copy that's dated with their thing on it. I take it home, but the original I give to them. They said, "Why don't you just mail it?" I said, "Because then I would be committing mail fraud. I'm going to have you do that." And I said, "Just forward it over to the right people." I said, "Since you're an agent of the Postal Service, here you go."
And what do they do after that?
Okay, I'll take care of it for you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That's all I'm asking you to do. You have to know more. Most people don't know. I did a power of attorney, as an example, where Mark Brian Kline gave power of attorney to Kline, Mark Brian, attorney in fact. It's a legal thing to do. The deputy clerk was giving me a hard time about it, and she was always nasty to me, and she was particularly mad this day because I wasn't wearing a mask, and I didn't have to because of New Jersey executive order, and I have an issue that was stated in there that's why I don't have to wear a mask. So I was actually following the law, and her trying to force me to wear one, she's the one breaking the law, and she's not a doctor. She can't give me medical advice. I pointed that out. She didn't like that. How about a face shield? No, I'm good. And she was trying to do anything she could. And then she looks at the paperwork. She goes, "You are trying to get power of attorney over you." And I said, "Depends on what your definition of you is." I said, because in the capacity that you're working today, that would mean your definition would have to fall under 31 Code of Federal Regulations 363.6, where you is defined as the primary account holder of a Treasury Direct account, and that's an estate. This is a living, breathing, flesh and blood man. Which you are you talking about? Because I know which one I'm talking about.
Right.
So you'll have to take this to counsel because I'm not an attorney. I said, yes, we've discussed that in the past. And I said, what time should I be here tomorrow to pick up my completed paperwork? Well, we'll see. We'll call you. I said, okay, have a nice day. I left. They called me, came back in, picked up my completed paperwork. But then, and I was telling you this before when you got here, I dropped off a packet of papers. So that's the bird.
That's all right.
He's about 30.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
So, I dropped off a packet of paperwork where I accepted all of their oaths of office. I didn't file it there because they wouldn't take it. Legally, they're supposed to take it, but they don't care what the law is. So I filed it in a different jurisdiction, different county, in a different state, but it's on the public record. So all I did was afterwards I got it back. I did an affidavit of recording, had that notarized, and I said, here, and it was about 50 pages. I said, here you go. And she goes, what do you want me to do with this? I said, whatever you want. Have a nice day. I turned around and left. So I gave them notice. And there's a thing, a gentleman always gives notice. And so I gave them notice of who I am and what I am in relation to them. And so tells them that they are public servants. When I was at the land recording office yesterday doing some work, title search, she was very, very pleasant to me. When I saw her coming, I'm like, oh, she's going to give me a hard time. No, they were all bending over backwards for me for 3 hours.
Oh, cool.
Oh, it was great. It really was. It was, and you know what? I didn't ask them to bend over backwards for me. I just asked them to be pleasant, and you know, and especially that one. You know, and she's been repeatedly nasty, and she wasn't yesterday. And I was like, everybody was, who was, you know, like, nope, now they're all being nice. And that's all I ask. I don't, you know.
Right. Why do you have to be, so rude to people, to put it that way?
Well, because, see, depending on what capacity you're coming at.
Right.
If you're there, did you ever hear of the Trading with the Enemies Act?
Yes.
Okay, that's Title 50 of the United States Code. And the Trading with the Enemy Act basically says that U.S. citizens are enemies of the state.
Oh, that's interesting.
But that's how they treat us, because we're belligerents. We don't know that we're enemies, so therefore we're going to argue. And when you argue, what do you have? Controversy.
Yep.
They love controversy. Lawyers love controversy.
Oh, yeah.
That stretches out their bills and stuff like that. You know, so the when you're there, getting back to what I said earlier about the U.S. citizen, whatever state you're born in, you're a national of that state, but they naturalize you into the United States, which is a federal corporation. And I think it's Title 31. In the definitions, there's always in a lot of all the titles, there's usually definitions for that particular section. And it says the United States is a federal corporation. Now, it's not always treated as such, but they all have EIN numbers. The White House, for example, is under their EIN number that they use is Department of the Interior, I believe.
Okay.
So it's all related. Do you remember when Trump got accused of where Pence went to Scotland, and they were trying to accuse him of using the Air Force for stopping over there purposely and using Trump's properties over there?
Right.
Okay, there was something like 800 something people that stayed there, and it was 6% of it. It's not stayed at Trump's properties, but 800 people traveled through that area who had overnight stays, and something like 6% used the Trump property. That's coming out to like 40 people.
Yeah.
And why did they stay there? Because the numbers, they said that the price was equivalent within a few dollars. And why not stay there? They knew the quality they were going to get.
Right.
If you go to Europe and you don't know where to eat, are you going to go to a name restaurant that you may know in America, like the Hard Rock Cafe? Would you know the quality you're going to get? Or are you going to go to somebody's, you don't know.
You don't know what you're getting.
I'd still rather go to somebody's thing because it'd be more interesting.
Yeah.
But a long time ago, I was in Stockholm, walking around. I knew Hard Rock Cafe. I knew the food was going to be good. I knew what I was going to get.
Right.
I didn't know what Swedish food was at that time.
Oh, okay.
But that was sort of my point. That they stayed there because they knew the quality that they were going to get. Yeah. Well, here's the other thing. The Air Force had, in 2016, before Trump, had signed contracts. How can the Air Force sign contracts? Because they're a company.
Right.
And they have an EIN number. And they signed a contract for fueling, so they were paying for that fuel whether they used it or not. Why not use it? I don't think it was that much out of the way. I don't know. But as far as they had a contract, they had to pay for it anyway, whether they use it or lose it.
Right.
They used it, and the people's per diems for 800 people, who cares what they were looking to nitpick at every little thing the guy did, which is sort of the opposite of what's going on right now.
Now let me ask you a question.
Not to get political with
See
that.
if you heard this or didn't, because I've had a couple people tell me now, and I just kind of look at them and go, okay, they'll say there's the current president, Joe Biden, and Trump. They're trying to say Trump, if something goes wrong, is a runner he'll take over the military. He's in charge of that then.
I think he's still the commander in chief, which is two. One is there's two separate jobs.
So that's what they're saying, that he's in charge of the military. Biden isn't. It just seems a little odd to me.
I've heard Biden wasn't allowed in the Pentagon. He was turned away.
Really?
I can't verify any of that.
I just thought maybe you in what you're doing, you might have heard that, because I never heard it before. And I'm going to look at him going, what?
It doesn't bother me as much, because it depends on what perspective you're looking at it. I'm not looking at it from the, so one day, a long time ago, 4 years, I guess, after Trump got in, I was talking to this girl, and she was complaining, he's not my president, this and that. And I said, you're 50% correct. She stopped and she goes, did I tell you the story or no?
No.
Oh, she stopped and she says, you would have said no anyway because we weren't on camera if I told you already. So now that I think about it. So I when I said you're 50% correct, and she stopped and she goes, what do you mean 50%? And I said, is Trump the president of New Jersey, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania? And she said, no. I said, no, that's what we have governors for. They're the governor, but they're like the president or chief executive officer of the state. She goes, okay. And I said, so what's Trump president of? She goes, no, I don't know. And I said, he's president of the United States. The United States is a corporation, which is like your mortgage servicing company. It services, for somebody else.
Right.
And so the United States of America are 50 sovereign states and territories that come together for the common benefit of commerce, protection, etc.
Right. That's why the laws are not the same.
That's right.
Yeah.
But any law that's repugnant to the Constitution, even on a state level, is voided. And most of the laws within the states are similar. They may be coded a little bit different and how they write things up. So here in New Jersey, we have the New Jersey Revised Statutes, and other states, they have, however it's worded, it's just different.
Okay.
But the titles are very similar. So if you have Title 18, Section 241 and 242, which is deprivation of rights under color of law and conspiracy to deprive somebody of rights under color of law. Do you know what color of law is?
No.
What do they call those guys on TV that call the football games? What kind of commentators?
Sports commentators.
Color commentators.
Is that what it's? I don't know.
Color means opinion.
Okay.
Is that fact? No.
I would say no.
Opinion, when you break down the word, O-pin-yun, means no joining contract.
Oh, okay.
And you do a search on what the words is. And remember Bill Clinton? First, we have to define what is.
Mm-hmm.
It's all a word game.
Yeah.
Which is why I called that.
Game of names.
Yeah. And that's the name. And when the judge tried to pin me in with that, I wouldn't take it. And have you ever heard a judge say to a defendant, "What do you want?"
No, I actually never have.
That's what the judge said to me.
Really?
And the case was dismissed 10 days later on my birthday. So I made a bad situation go away quickly. I don't know whether I was lucky or not, or they didn't know what I knew and didn't want to find out what I knew. Now I know a lot more, and now I wouldn't have done what I did to get me in that situation. If you want to find out, you got to read the book. But I did something stupid, but we all make mistakes, and we should have the right to correct them as long as we don't harm anybody or their property.
Right.
And I didn't. So, and it's the same thing if you get pulled over by a cop. So I was actually talking to a police officer, a sheriff's officer, in a parking lot one day. And he has lights on. I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He goes, "Oh, they're doing a food drive over here." And I said, "Oh, okay." We talked for a bit, and this was last September. And I said, "Hey, why?" And we probably talked about 10 minutes. And so I'm Jewish, and I saw that his name, we had a Jewish name on his badges, and it was not Yom Kippur. What's the other one? Rosh Hashanah. Jewish New Year. I said, "Oh, Happy New Year." He goes, "Oh, thank you." And then I said, "Hey, why are your lights on? Why are your emergency lights on?" And he goes, "Well, we're just making people aware that there's something going on over here." I said, "You're breaking the law. You can't have those lights on." And he goes, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Where's the emergency?"
Right.
And he's looking at me. I said, "You could easily put cones out." And I said, "I don't know what the exact state law statute is. It's probably under Title 39, which is the Motor Vehicle Code in New Jersey." I said, I think you're breaking the law." He goes, "I'm going to have to look that up." He goes, "Well, what if I pulled you over?" I said, "My first question to you would be, what's the emergency, officer?" The next question would be, was anybody's property damaged? And the last question would be, did I hurt anybody physically? Is anybody physically hurt? If the answer is no to all three of them, which it most likely is, then I refuse any offers to contract. Well, how can I help you? Because that's what they're doing. It tickets an offer to contract.
Right.
And what happens if I give you a contract and you don't want it?
It's void.
Dead in the water.
Yeah.
And that. So what's the elements of a contract? A meeting of the minds.
Right.
No contract. I don't consent to these proceedings. I refuse your offers of contract. Have a nice day. I've done that to make tickets go away.
And
There's a process, but
it was a little. What was the officer at that point? When you're talking to, is like, what are you talking about?
Oh, then he says, "Well, what? But you could have hurt somebody." I said,
But
"Did you ever see the movie Minority Report? Pre-crime."
Yeah.
And I said, and he goes, "I see where you're going with this." I said, "You can't get me for a maybe."
Right.
And he goes, "I'm gonna have to look that up." And he goes, "This is interesting."
Okay.
Which was cool because he wasn't a jerk about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and I said, "Oh, by the way," I said, your badge has 6 points on it." And he said, "Yeah." I said, "You work for the House of David." And he goes, "I know." Post office is the House of Solomon.
Is
Gold.
it? Really?
The only place to get a gold back money order is the post office.
That's okay. That's cool.
So who signs the money order in the post office?
I have no idea.
Nobody.
Nobody.
There's no signature on it.
I never, because I don't use them. So.
Okay. Who if you get a money order from the bank, who signs it?
I don't know because I haven't gotten those either.
If you get a money order from the bank or a certified check from the bank,
Okay.
bank manager signs it.
All right.
And what's their signature valued at? Full faith and credit.
Full faith and credit. Okay.
So one is backed by substance.
Yeah.
The other one's backed by form, which is
Nothing.
yeah,
The air.
that's right. It's all a fiction.
Yes.
And that's where the names come in, because your name is your monopoly. Your name, when it's expressed in a certain way, like all capital letters, etc., or first name, middle initial, last name, how they've been doing it. That's not you. That's your monopoly playing piece in the system.
Okay.
That's your avatar.
Right.
That's not you. You can't stand on the board.
Right.
That's what when they say you don't have standing in court.
Yeah.
Because we would go in there and trying to be the man. They can't hear the man. They can only hear a representation of the man. So are you representing yourself? What does represent mean? To represent. Look at the word differently.
Right.
You're presenting again. You're sending again in a different manner.
Okay.
But so that's why they need a proxy. Like your attorney.
Right.
And when you get an attorney, you're considered a moron. Because you're too stupid to be able to handle your own affairs.
Okay. But they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to know.
Exactly. And they can't deny you your right,
No.
To do that.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the case is. They tell you, so, okay, show me the law that says that. Oh, okay, you're saying this is for someone who's a pro se litigant? No, I'm in propria persona. That means I'm in my proper person. Not as a pro se, because what do they call the guy that's coming after you? The prosecutor.
Right.
Prosecutor.
And you
It's all a word game.
right. Where you had said at one point about all the letters being in the capital. Right.
Well, if you go to a cemetery, how are the graves? How's the name of the person expressed on the grave?
I'm not really sure.
Capital letters.
Are they?
And something called the Chicago Manual of Styles. It says what's in it, how things are supposed to be used in government forms.
Okay.
It's done in a certain way, and that if you notice, all your bills come in your all caps name.
Okay.
Because they're not sending it to you. You're the authorized representative. If you look at a check, the signature line on a check, there's 2 letters at the end. MP.
MP. Okay.
Microprint.
All right.
The line is not a line. It's microprinted words. It says authorized representative.
Oh, really?
Like 3 times or so. And that's UCC 402 or 412, which is the authorized signatory on the account. And which side of the check is the signature line?
The front normally.
The right side. Which side?
The right
Oh, sorry.
side.
The right
the
side.
right side.
That's the creditor side of things.
Yeah.
Debtor always signs on the left.
Okay.
So you're the creditor for it signing on the right. Your signature, sign of nature, creates the current or currency for the transaction.
Okay.
It's looking at the words and understanding what they mean. It's daunting, and it looks like I don't want to deal with that. It's once the toothpaste is out of the tube, it is what it is, and you can't not see it.
Right.
So, do you remember when Trump said he's going to get Mexico to pay for the wall?
Right.
Do you know that the dollar sign with the one thing down here stands for the peso?
Oh, does it?
Yeah, that's not. But how is it on the monopoly money?
I have no idea.
You remember?
Do you know?
It had 2 bars.
Right.
But you can't find that unless you go online and find the picture and stick it on something. That's real That's real money.
Oh. Okay.
The funny money that we use today is called fiat currency. It's fake. It's legal tender, but it's not the same. Yeah, I mean they killed Kennedy because he brought up the silver-backed certificates, he was pushing it and he wanted to audit the Fed. Who else did? Reagan. They tried to shoot him.
Right.
Well, they did shoot him, and then they tried to take out Trump because he wanted to go in there. But last year, I think it was last April, the Treasury was swallowed up the Fed.
Really?
Why is and I believe, I haven't been able to confirm this, I believe Janet Yellen is the Secretary of the Treasury.
Okay.
Because she knows where all the bodies are buried, being the head of the Fed before that, under Obama.
Okay.
So they're trying to unwind what he did. You know, and I was at dinner, I think it was Passover dinner, about 10 years ago. And they're all talking about, it was when our warships were going to the Strait of Hormuz in Iran.
Okay.
And they're all, Iran's going to have nukes. I said, Iran's not going to have nukes for a while. And I said, this has to do with Iran not being part of the Federal Reserve banking system. There were 3 main countries that weren't: Cuba, North Korea, and Iran. And they make them out to be the devils. Their governments are, but I don't think the people are.
No, the people are just like anyone. You're already left alone. Everyone I've met from other countries.
Me too.
I just want to take care of my family, work, and be left alone.
They want the same thing that we want. The only thing difference is the cultural elements of how they go about doing it.
Right.
It's the same.
Yeah. They don't want to be bogged down by stupidity of what you want me to do. Just let us alone. If we're not hurting anybody, leave everybody alone. You know, people are the same no matter where they've come from.
Yeah.
You know, but they don't want you to understand that.
Well, because each government really is a corporation.
No.
That's what they are. They're not what we think they are. A couple years ago, Macedonia restructured and they changed the name of their country.
I never heard that. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Well, they're so small and they don't want people to realize what's going on.
Yeah.
And actually, Dun & Bradstreet?
Yeah.
Okay, it's a credit rating company. Why would... So when I got that ticket in this one township a couple months ago, I went online. I put in the name of the police station and the township. The township has a Dun & Bradstreet rating.
Oh.
Why would the township have a Dun & Bradstreet rating? Well, countries and states have Dun & Bradstreet ratings also. I have the EINs for every state. I have the Dun & Bradstreet number for every state. I have the EIN for every government entity in this country. And it just shows that it's all corporations. New Jersey, the state of New Jersey is a corporation. New Jersey is a sovereign thing. What does the word state mean? Country. State of Israel.
Oh, okay.
It means country.
Right.
And you remember when Obama said there were 57 states and everyone gave him a hard time?
Yeah.
There's 57 corporate states.
Right.
It's different.
Right.
Because he included the territories.
Was that a slip up?
Sometimes they got to tell you what they're doing to you.
Yeah.
And you won't even realize
right.
what's happening. That's part of their, evil doings, whatever, satanic nature, if you want to call it that. They have to tell you how they're going to screw you without so that, because Scalia said everything that's done to all the people in jail, 90-something% of them are there voluntarily.
Say that again?
90-something% of them are there voluntarily.
Really? How does that come about?
Do you agree to these charges? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's like, well, who wants to be locked up?
but you've contracted with them. That's what they did.
Yeah.
And do you want to get screwed this way or get screwed this way? All right, I'll take this way. All right, fine. There you go. You can take them over this way.
Crazy.
But it was funny. There was a woman that I know. She's out west somewhere, and she they wanted her out of the courtroom. They were going to remove her from the courtroom. And the bailiff came over and she looked at him. She goes, "You put one hand on me, I will own your house." And the guy just backed up because they can't. That's the thing. She left voluntarily.
Right.
But they touch you, it's a different thing. See, we have anything that they put our name on. We have what's called an equitable interest in that thing.
Right.
Somebody put your name on a ticket. I don't care how it's expressed. It doesn't matter because it's attached to you. Meaning, it could be upper lowercase, could be uppercase. However, it doesn't matter. Isn't you think that's your name?
Right.
So you would have an interest to it. And if anybody else did it, what's that called? Theft.
Right.
Identity theft. Okay. Somehow they think they had power of attorney to play with your name. We've given it to them in many different ways without realizing it. And it takes a lot to unwind it. So it's not easy. It's a pain in the ass, to be honest. And it takes several years to really understand it. There is no quick fix. I thought there was in the beginning, and no. And no, you have to study it, and you have to, I was on the phone with somebody right before you got here, regarding some of this stuff.
Okay.
It's how to claim your interest in your stuff.
All right.
If you don't claim it, then someone else will. Yeah. Have you ever seen, what a 1099 is?
Yes.
Okay, it's black, right? The black form.
Right.
The print is black. You ever seen the red ones?
I don't think so.
They're called. You have 1099A, which means abandonment or acquisition. 1099C, cancellation of debt. 1099 DIV. There's about 20 different forms. I got one time for a stock that I had that I didn't have to pay tax on. That was the deal. If you invest in this thing, it's you get to keep 100% of the interest. Okay. Yeah. But I got this red form, and I was like, I called it. What is this? He goes, no, that's just showing, the offset that you don't have to pay the interest on it. You have to claim it, but you have to pay the interest on it.
Okay.
Oh, it was the first time I'd seen it, but it scared me. and so this is years ago. So I had. If you don't claim something within 3 years, someone else does. So every stub, the coupons on the bottom of your bills, the company is claiming those things. Because we don't use it, we do everything electronically now. But you're supposed to claim it in a certain way to say, hey, that's mine, that's my property. So a trespass, we think, is walking in on somebody's ground.
Yeah.
Couldn't it also be taking your name and using your name for something? Isn't that a
sure.
trespass?
Right.
There's a lot of different ways that they trespass on you.
No.
So in this particular case, one of the ways I made the case disappear was sending a letter to the judge saying that you put my name on an instrument without my permission, and in New Jersey that's called illegal conversion. And if they do that, they're converting your name into a security. Now that also goes against the takings clause of the Fifth Amendment, where due process has to, if somebody takes your stuff, you have to be given just compensation.
Okay.
And there's other elements as well. And that's they're not doing that. I think that's part of why the case went away. But I think they saw all that stuff, and I was going to take the judge to arbitration.
Okay.
Basically, he was told he was being sued if he didn't stop this. And they stopped
it. So
I was sweating, but
hey, you got to throw the ball if you want to get that strikeout. I mean, let's go back to how you got involved in this in the first place. So how did that? Do you think it's pushed away where they're not worrying about you anymore, or they are worried about you still?
Those guys, I don't know. To be honest, I haven't heard a peep out of her or anybody. I don't talk about a lot of this stuff publicly, on social media and things like that.
Because you got to worry.
I still have that,
Yeah. Okay.
When something happens. I can't. I'm not gonna sit there and just hide. It's just.
What about? Let's go over to here because I talked to you a little bit about it. Maritime law. You're saying we're in.
It's Admiralty Maritime Law, or it's like a commercial law.
Okay. So.
Look up a court case called the United States versus Ortiz.
Okay.
It was a Supreme Court case from 2018. Very interesting, and it'll discuss what's in there.
What's actually
you know?
happening?
Yeah, and again, it was a recent case, but we've been under the law of the seas and maritime. That's why I say you have no standing.
Right.
You can't stand on water.
Yeah.
Because everything, it's almost as if we're underwater here. What do they call the police cars? Cruisers or vessels. Those are nautical terms.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the courthouses, they are shaped like ships. The way they're set up, if you look at it from above.
Yeah, I never really paid attention to.
None of us have.
You know,
None of us have. They've done these things right in front of our face without us realizing it.
no.
Well, everything that they do is commercial. Like I said, all crimes are commercial.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's 27 CFR 7211. They're monetizing everything. Everything to them is an opportunity to contract. And the judge does something to the equivalent of he's creating a security when he puts the docket number, associated with your name.
Right.
But they don't. But it's not. It's. What would happen if I wrote a check and didn't have any funds in the account?
You're going to be.
The check
you're
would
gonna
bounce.
right.
But if you purposely write a check on a closed account or account that hasn't been opened,
Yeah.
could be considered identity theft. It could also be considered securities fraud.
Oh, really?
So what happens is they need you to come into the courthouse to give them the authority without to as the underwriter for that security without realizing that that's what's going on.
Ah.
That's what I'm studying that stuff now, so I can better understand it. Because the whole thing is, if somebody puts your name on something, the question should be asked to them: what gives you the right to put my name on something without my permission?
Right.
What gives you the delegation of authority? They don't have it. But everything's under presumption.
Right.
Everything's alleged.
Because nobody is looking at it. No one. I don't have the time for this. I got to work. I got to
That's
do
why
this.
the cops can lie.
Yeah.
And that's why the lawyers can lie. And they'll say horrible things about people in a lawsuit. Then afterwards they'll go, we didn't mean it. But they sent it through the mail.
Yeah.
Now we got a problem.
Right.
They sent it through the mail. But anything you get through the mail is an offer to contract. It becomes like if I gave you $1, did I pay you with anything? Or did I give you somebody else's debt obligation?
I would say debt obligation.
And under Title 18, Section 8, a debt obligation is defined in there with all the different things in there. Money order. Nowhere does it say gold. I don't think it says gold and silver in that definition. But it could be money order. Well, what's a money order? It's not defined.
Right.
And so you can. There's way you can write a contract or a financial instrument on a piece of toilet paper.
Yeah.
As long as the other person accepts it. And then there's discharge also. If you paid somebody something, if I gave you a check and you didn't deposit it for 6 months and the money wasn't available after that time, and the check is no longer good after 180 days or whatever it is, can you come back to me and ask me for the check?
I have no idea.
You can, but am I under any obligation to pay you?
Probably
at that point?
not.
No, because discharge has occurred.
Right.
UCC 3-603, tender of payment laws. If I give you something like a note or something else to handle something, and if you don't send it back to me in a timely manner, shush, okay, which basically says there's something wrong with this instrument. Getting louder. If you don't send me something back that says there's something wrong with this instrument, I don't care if you've accepted it. It's considered accepted. Discharge has occurred. Have a nice day.
Right.
UCC 3-603. That's Uniform Commercial Code. Not the Uniform Church of Christ. Sometimes when I look up UCC stuff, that's what pops up. Uniform Church of Christ. I'm like, that's not what I'm looking for.
Oh man.
Maybe they're involved.
Oh,
But what's interesting is the federal UCC laws all fall under are similar under each state. So in New Jersey, they're all under what's called Title 12A. So it would be Title 12A-3-603. And so it's very simple. Once you get used to looking at stuff, it's easy.
Yeah, because you know what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Like I said, for years I said, every time you go into another state, it's like going into another country.
It is. It literally is.
Yeah.
But that's why we're allowed to you can some states have extradition laws or non-extradition treaty. They have treaties. Each state has a treaty with the other states.
Okay. That's
Why
interesting.
well, think about it. Don't we have a Secretary of State?
Yeah.
Why would New Jersey have a Secretary of State if that wasn't a thing?
Right.
You know, so that the Secretary of State is the one that's supposed to handle like foreign dignitaries and ambassadors and things like that.
Okay.
And who appoints a lot? I mean, the president may appoint them, but who manages them? Secretary, Department of State.
Yeah.
And each state has a Department of State because each state is its own country.
That's interesting.
We have borders. New Jersey has borders.
Yeah.
And then there's the border around the United States. So that they're all, again, that's where the United States, the servicing company is involved.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, I don't want to take up your whole day. So we could be here for.
Yeah, no.
We might have to come back and do another.
No, that's fine. I got a call at 2:00 on
But
trust issues.
thanks for your time. You want to show your book up?
Oh yeah.
And you have a third one coming out soon.
This is a game of souls. This is the first book, A Game of Names. The second book. They're both available on Amazon, or you can contact me. The third book I'm working on, and I thank the police officers for giving me. When I had an issue, they left, and not here. I was out somewhere.
Okay.
And it was a mask issue. They left me alone after 20 minutes because they couldn't get anywhere. And I thanked them when they were leaving. And he goes, "For what?" I said, "He just gave me the first chapter for my next book. Have a nice day." and they left. And but I had an issue with my washing machine, so I was using the local laundromat. And somebody called 911 on me because I wasn't wearing a mask. I don't have to. And the owner didn't say anything to me, and she didn't call 911. And I don't care what anybody thinks of it. It's my life, not theirs. And if they're wearing a mask, then you should be happy. If they're happy that they're protected, then leave me alone. And I'm not responsible for your feelings. If I'm sneezing and coughing, I'll stay home.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that called 911 on me had this disgusting discharge coming out of his nose. His mask was all wet. He should have stayed home. And actually, what's funny is, remember Jackie Mason?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so as this guy is giving me crap, I said, "Oh, you dropped a sock." And he goes, "Don't you tell me." And I said, "You dropped the sock. You're going to go home. You're going to wonder where, So I let it go for a minute, and he kept doing this. And he wasn't reaching to pick up the sock, and it was annoying me. I said, "I think you should pick up that sock. You want me to get the sock for you?" And so I said, then I went into like Jackie Mason. I said, "You're going to go home and say, hey, I should have listened to the guy. Now I got a sock. What am I going to do with the other sock? I left the other sock there." Blah, 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 blah. I went on for like 30 seconds. He was furious.
Oh, boy.
and so he finally left. And apparently he called 911 on me. And, and then
Guy keeps telling me to pick up my socks.
Yeah. And then the cop, when the cop came in, I said, "Oh, I'm glad you're here." And he looked at me like, "Nobody's glad we're here." I always say that. Anytime someone calls on the phone, like a solicitor, "Oh, I'm glad you called." They're like, "You're glad I called." It throws them off their script and everything else. Long story short, they ended up leaving. I got a copy of the police report. The cop lied on the report.
Really?
Oh yes, and now I got them too, and I'm going after them as well. I didn't want to do. I don't want to do any of that stuff. But think of it this way: every time we walk out the door, someone may try to contract with us.
Right.
And if they do, we have a right to accept it or reject it. And if they try to force it on us, they're breaking the law. They're breaking their own law. So the police officers, according to Title Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the United States Constitution, their jurisdiction ends at their front door.
Okay.
But, so I kept telling him here in a private capacity. I made him aware, and he didn't want to hear it because he didn't understand. Not my problem.
Don't want to listen.
Then the big guy, well, what's your medical issue? It's a HIPAA violation. You can't ask me that. Whether it is or it isn't, it really doesn't matter. He says nobody has any right to ask anybody else what their medical issue is,
Right.
especially specifically. You can't.
Right. Whatever. I can't breathe. Whatever. It's none of your business.
If you don't express your rights, you have none.
Right.
That doesn't mean you have to be a jerk about it.
No.
But too many people, I got rights. Yeah, they don't do. You're wasting. You have to have an intelligent conversation with some of these people, and then to make them realize, okay, this is not a fight. I need to pick. I already got, for those police officers and the other ones, I have their insurance company, I have their oath of office, and I'm going to discuss with their insurance company their bonding information.
Yeah.
Because why do police officers have to be bonded?
I have no idea.
Because they're acting in commerce.
Okay.
No different than your electrician coming to your house in case he messes something up.
Ah.
It's all about banking and insurance. They don't care about you. They're not there to protect anybody. Because when seconds count, the police are always minutes away.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-cop. But why am I going to call them for something after the fact? What are they going to do?
Nothing.
They don't recover your stuff. I mean, it depends on what it is. Sorry. It depends on what it is. But what's interesting is the cops got furious when I said, I want to see authenticated credentials. That means something with a raised seal that they have the authority to even speak to me. They got furious when I did that. And the little guy is you can see our hats, our badges, and I said, those are costumes. Anybody can get them anywhere. and then the big guy comes over and he goes, what statute is that? And I said, you mean a wise ass, you better stop. And the little guy said, go away. And he shoot him away. And then they left. That's good. That's the opening chapter of the third book.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so, and I have a whole host of things I'm going to put in there with regards to it. But it's actually been fascinating, from writing just doing some of the background research on different things. So we had a house in Barbados growing up, so I used a lot of Barbados in the second book, and some of the history in there that I put. George Washington. It was the only place that George Washington went outside the country.
Oh, really? I never knew that.
It was Barbados to bring his brother Lawrence there, who was suffering from tuberculosis.
Oh.
But here's what's also, if you think about how things are connected or and interconnected, like future events that only happened because something happened here, which pretty much is our whole history.
Right.
Well, he got smallpox when he was there, and he was quarantined.
Oh, really?
And it was, I think, a Polish doctor that came up with an inoculation procedure. That's what they used during the American Revolution. Washington brought it back.
Okay.
Mount Vernon, his home, was named after his brother's commander.
Okay.
And I never knew where the name of the home came from. They named it after his brother's commander.
Oh, well.
And Barbados was actually the top trading post in the world for the British Empire at one point.
Okay.
And then Jamaica took it over years later. But, do you like rum?
I maybe have tasted it once. I don't drink a lot.
The oldest rum distillery in the world is in Barbados.
Okay.
And it's still active.
Right.
And so they do some neat stuff in which gives it a slightly different flavor.
I'm a seltzer person. Not that I was a drunk or something.
No, I know. Yeah. But and just like there was there's a famous hotel in Barbados, and Buffalo Bill Cody stayed there.
Oh, really?
Was it Buffalo Bill? Wild Bill? I can't remember. It's in the book. But he couldn't pay for the room.
Really?
Yeah, it was 1898, I think, and he left his gold pocket watch.
Okay.
And the family still has it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they don't own the hotel anymore, but they still have it apparently in their possession.
Yeah.
And even there's a place in South in down the shore, the Highlands.
Okay.
There's Mount Mitchell right behind, from the water. You see this mountain there. It's 260 feet above sea level.
Is it?
It's the highest point on the eastern seaboard, from Maine to Galveston, Texas, right here in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And the park there, they used to have something there called Clam Fest.
Okay.
And a big seafood thing usually in June or August, or maybe I don't think it's July, and because it was a fishing town. Actually, it was probably a sleepy fishing village with a drinking problem, and or a sleepy drinking village with a fishing problem.
It's like Florida.
Exactly, Montauk, and so there's a park there called Huddy Park. And I've been there many times and didn't realize until I was using that as the backdrop for one of the chapters.
Okay.
And there was a guy named Captain Joshua Huddy who was hung there illegally by his neighbor.
Oh.
He was living in a cul-de-sac. This guy, I read some of the court cases this guy was involved in back then. This guy was a pain in the ass to the entire system. But for the American militia, he was great because he was a pest to the Tories, to the British loyalists.
Okay.
And Tom's River used to be known as Dover.
Oh, really?
And it was mainly used as a, I guess because of its connection to the ocean, for salt. So they needed the salt to cure the meat.
Oh.
And so there was a blockhouse there that they arrested him twice. One time near Rumson and he escaped, and then another time they caught him at the blockhouse. He was guarding the salt house in Tom's River, and he was captured by Benjamin Franklin's illegitimate son, William, who was the last royal governor of New Jersey in Perth Amboy.
Okay.
And they hung him illegally, and they weren't supposed to kill officers. They had a deal. Well, because officers came from noble families.
Right.
They didn't want to lose any of theirs. Who cares about everybody else? And they hung him, and then it was April 12th, so we just passed the 339th anniversary last month. He almost became like a martyr. He was probably better in death than he was in life.
Yeah.
He wasn't such a great guy, but he was good for the cause, and he was also a pirate privateer at one point. And Washington got involved because there was going to be an outbreak. So you had 1791, which was 1781, the siege at Yorktown, where Cornwallis surrendered.
Okay.
April 12th, 1782, they killed him. Well, so then that became known as the Asgill Affair because Washington said, all right, fine. We have 13 of their officers. Have them draw straws. Whoever gets the shortest straw, we hang him. We're done. And we're even. Well, this guy named Asgill drew the shortest straw, and his family were baron and a baroness in England.
Okay.
They wrote a letter to Louis XVI, the Dutch monarchy, King George. So they all intervened, and Washington said, fine. He gave it to the Continental Congress, your problem. But here's what's interesting. I was listening to something else that's maybe 6 months ago that a friend of mine sent me. And I looked up the documents that the guy was talking about in the UK archives. So at the armistice or the cessation of hostilities after the 1781 siege at Yorktown, the United States had up until July 1st, 1782 to negotiate the peace. And if they couldn't do that, somebody else could step in and negotiate instead.
Okay.
What does that mean?
Go ahead.
So Benjamin Franklin, John Jay, John Adams were the main people who were negotiating the Treaty of Paris, who signed the Treaty of Paris in 1783. But wait a minute, what about that date, July 1, 1782? Now I'm thinking the Asgill Affair actually caused the deadline to pass. Because there was almost an outbreak. There was almost a civil war going on in Monmouth County. So I believe that the same three negotiated the peace for a different group.
Really?
I actually may write a book on that. I think that may be a cool thing to write. Whether it's factual or not. I mean, it was much factual in there and just
right.
But I think it might be an interesting story to research. So because what if the same people who looked like they were representing us the whole time were not?
Right.
Because I have other evidence of this. Well, number one, the two significances of July 4th. One is the Declaration of Independence. The third public reading of the Declaration of Independence was in New Brunswick at Christ Church.
Okay.
And I used to go there every July 4th until last year, and a guy would dress up as the guy who actually read it.
Yeah.
And that church has been there since 1742.
Yeah.
And the second significance of July 4th in the British archives, the American War of Independence ended July 4th, 1797.
Okay.
1797, 20 years after the fact, or whatever it was, 80, so 15 years after the fact.
Yeah.
We don't know about that. What is that?
Yeah.
That had to do with the economic part that they had to get in place.
Well, nowadays you don't know anything because nobody gets taught anything anymore.
That's right.
You know, we teach a bunch of silliness.
Well, they teach people how to take tests.
Yeah.
What did George Carlin say? We're going to teach people just to be smart enough to operate the machines, push the buttons and operate the machines.
Well, that's what they do, right?
That's right. And it's sad, but he died, I think 2008, somewhere around there.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
And it's really sad because that's what's going on.
Right.
You know, these kids aren't learning anything, and it's a shame.
It is because I used to walk into delis for the fun of it and say, you know the name of George Washington's wife? No, I don't know. I guess little questions like that, you know. Who was George? Well, I usually like to go and ask them, do you know why did we have a Civil War and who was the Civil War with? I think it was North Korea.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, did you ever hear, do you know who the Emperor of Mexico was in 1860?
No.
Maximilian.
Okay.
And his house have you ever been to Trieste?
No.
There's a castle in Trieste called Miramare, and there's a statue of him there. It says Emperor Maximilian, 1860. Now he died over there.
Okay.
And everyone thinks Cinco de Mayo is Mexican Independence Day. No, that was the Battle of Puebla, where the French where it was a stalemate between the French and Mexican forces. And if the French were able to take over, they would have squeezed us from the bottom, where the English and French were going to squeeze us from the top and from the ocean.
Yeah.
And that was in the Civil War. Have you ever heard of George Rogers Clark?
No.
Yeah, he should have equal importance, I believe, as Washington.
Okay.
Because he was the brother of the Clark of Lewis and Clark.
Oh, really?
They were all friends with Jefferson because they grew up in Virginia. And there's something in Vincennes, Indiana. I've been to. It's called the George Rogers Clark Memorial. And it was before the St. Louis Arch. They got mad, so they built a bigger one. And it was the largest freestanding memorial outside of Washington. And it's beautiful in there. Well, one reason why it resonates a little bit more with me, on my birthday, I think it was 1779, he waded through 160 miles of knee-deep, ice-cold water in the winter, and it's cold out there in the wintertime in Indiana, with a small group of people and Native Americans, and they took the fort called Fort Sackville without a shot being fired. Oh. And the commander was like, the hell's coming in here at this time? They didn't expect anything. They took over it, and it was on my birthday in that year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, no, it's and it's really cool. You know, when you see all of a sudden you're driving this little town, and it's like, the hell is that? You know, my friends, you never saw that? And I said, no. So we were able to go in just a couple of years ago, and it was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. So.
Well, yeah. But the more you do, the more you learn. The more you know how things really happened and why they happened. You know, I mean that would be the same with me with the Old West. At one time, I could tell you everything that went in and why. Mm-hmm. You know, but not now.
my parents, when they did a couple cattle drives out west, and I think his name was Jim Bridger.
Okay.
He's like the grandson of one of the original mountain men.
Oh, really?
And he was out there telling stories.
Okay.
And so they would do it for like a week at a time. They'd actually be driving cattle, and it was like an 1800s cattle drive, dressed in all 1800s gear and doing all this stuff. We
were going to do that with Terry C. Johnston and Robert Utley. They're
Terry
both
C. Johnston.
Yeah, he's both are historians, but okay. Teddy. He wrote a lot of books, Terry.
Yeah, name's familiar.
Yeah, he's got a lot of Western books and stuff. And what happened is they had sent me this stuff. I said, yeah, I think I'm going to go on this. And then Terry ended up dying, you know. So, but those guys. It gets
in the way sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes. Everybody, it happens to everybody. Yeah. But, you know, a lot of stuff they don't realize what went on, you know, with the North and the South after everything was supposed to be done.
It wasn't about slavery as much as people are going to get mad when you say that.
No, it wasn't. That was an
issue, but that wasn't the main issue.
No, that being freed came because
States' rights.
that
It's all about states' rights.
yeah, and Lincoln needed a way because he was having problems. So I'm going to free. I'm freeing the slaves. I'm helping people. He didn't. He couldn't less. With I look at it, he couldn't have cared less with where it went. I needed to get something in there.
He said he looked at slavery as an abhorrent thing that would eventually go away.
Yeah.
But he didn't want to be the one. They all kicked the can down the road with saying that a slave was worth 3/5 of a person.
Yeah.
They did that originally too, but this was a states' rights issue. Because this and unfortunately the subject property was the slave,
Yeah.
and nobody had a right to tell somebody how to use their property. Now, to say that a human being is property, now that's a problem.
Right.
That's just ridiculous. However, they freed the slaves, supposedly using the 13th Amendment. But did you know that the original 13th Amendment said that lawyers could not be politicians?
Oh, really?
It has to do with the emoluments clause and stuff like that. I think it's somewhere in Article 1, Section 10, somewhere around there.
Okay.
And it has to do with the emoluments clause that they kept trying to nail Trump with.
Yeah.
And but yeah, lawyers can't be are not supposed to be politicians for exactly the real problems we have today.
Right.
No. But yeah, this was the Civil War, from my understanding, was a states' rights issue on property ownership. The problem was that the property in question was a human being, and that shouldn't be. You know, my when did your family come over here?
Oh, I don't know. I know my dad came over from Russia. My mother came over from not Italy. Around Italy. I can't think of the name of the state. So he came. They were both kids when they came over. Okay. So I had to be, because I know my dad fought in World War II, so somewhere before that he came into America and fought for America.
So you had an exemption like I do too.
Really?
Well, my family, from my understanding, didn't come over here till like the 1870s, 1880s.
Okay.
That was after the Civil War.
Yeah.
I'm exempt. I'm not paying any reparations.
No,
sorry.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with
Look,
me.
nobody alive. There's people that own. I think more people are enslaved today with trafficking and everything else than there were back then. But this whole reparation stuff is
Look,
there's ways around it to take care of everybody, not just one group, because wouldn't that be discriminatory?
Sure.
It's like going into a place and saying, well, if you had your complete vaccination, you can go en masse, and those who can't. Well, that would be illegal.
Right. Oh, they were going to try that, right?
They were going to try it. Yeah. Well, I thought it said it on a door of a restaurant I went to last night. And I looked at it again, and then it said recommended. Oh, okay. Recommended? I'm not doing it. I don't care. I didn't the whole time. I was,
Well, we all know what the heck was that mask doing. Nothing. It was a joke.
It made some people feel better. But again, there was, this woman had this best, she had the best voice for like a sitcom character. I'm online at CVS. And the pharmacist, sir, do you need a mask? And I was on my phone. I went, no, I'm good. And then this older woman in front, oh, he's good, is he? and then so she didn't turn around, and I didn't say anything. I just kept reading. The pharmacist made a face and walked away. And then when the woman was done, she turned around and looked at me, and she goes, you should do it for other people. Like this. And I looked, and I went, you have yourself a nice night. And she walked away. So I went to the technician who was sort of looking at me, and I said, let me ask you a question. Am I under any obligation to give her what my health issues are? And he said, no. I said, am I under any obligation to give you what they are? He goes, no. I said, you'll be able to find out what it is when I give you my name, which is why I'm here. And he goes, correct. And then I told him, and he goes, oh. And I said, that's why I wasn't going to argue with the woman. And I said, it wasn't going to go anywhere. She's afraid. I get it. But for me to do that for her, I don't know her. If I go somewhere and my parents ask me to wear one, okay. I don't know her. I owe that woman absolutely nothing. Nor can she tell me to do something.
Right.
And he says, you're right. Yeah. And so I'm there a couple weeks later. Same pharmacist. Sir, do you need a mask? And I said, the That's the second time you've done that and tried to yell it across the room like that. And I said, we're going to talk about this. I went over to her and I said, if you want to just say, sir, can you come here a minute so I can talk to you? I said, I'll have no problem with that. I know you guys have to ask. But to try to shame me and embarrass me from across the room, that works the opposite on me. Now I need your name. What's your first name? She told me. I said, what's your last name? She goes, Kline. I said, what? She goes, Kline. I said, really?
Are we
And I said, so's mine. And I said, how do you spell it? And she goes, Klein. Normally I say, well, you spelled it wrong. So I wasn't going to get into that with her. And I said, look, in the future, you shouldn't do that. It's really not nice to do that. And I said, the customer is not always right. And I said, but look, and then I said, here's your policy right here. I said, are you familiar with it? And she's looking at me. I said, I'm familiar with it. I said, and your policy actually comports with state law. And I held up the law. I said, were you here this morning? She said, yeah. And I pulled out my inhaler. I said, then you're probably the one who fulfilled this. And now you know that I'm actually following state law. She goes, I am so sorry. I said, and you know what? You have to hold these people accountable. We have to hold all of them accountable. There's a way to do it and not to do it. And there's a woman over here. She goes, well, I think the thing is free now. And I said, okay. And I looked at this woman. I said, are you done? She goes, no. And she's like this. She goes, no, I'm waiting for you to finish. You're not 6 feet. And I looked and I went, yeah, this is 6 feet. This is the middle of this line and you're in the middle of that one. And she goes, that's not 6 feet. Now at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to lay down on the ground. I'm like, I'm 5'6". I'm like, I'm not laying down on this ground. And I said, okay, so 6 feet behind you is okay, but 6 feet to the side of you is not. She goes, you have a blessed day. I said, I don't need that. And I said, I'll wait over here so you don't have a heart attack. And so I go back there. This older woman's over there waiting for something. She goes, CDC says 3 feet now. And I went, did you hear that? 3 feet. At that point, I started to get, when people are stupid, then I'm like, I'm not, I pick and choose, but it's just.
It's like I told her when they came out and said you had to be 3 feet apart. I said, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And she said, why? I said, when I was in grade school, I was studying quantum physics. After school, my science guy. And they always said in a disease situation, you needed to be probably 6 feet. But if there was motors, you should be 100 feet away from it, And that was back in the 70s. And I said, he's wrong by what he's saying. So he came back on maybe 2 weeks ago. We should probably be 6 feet away, but we can't do that, Well, why couldn't you do it?
But I mean, it's caused a lot of issues with people, and I don't like wearing them. I'll put it on in some situations, but no more.
When
I really haven't worn it in a year, to be honest.
You're driving down a road by yourself. Why do you have a mask on?
That drives me nuts.
And then you're passing out. If you feel like you're going to pass out, why wouldn't you take the mask off?
I was at a car dealership last year, and I was looking at something, and I know the one of the guys in there, we were talking. I showed him the thing, and I took the mask off. I always go in wearing one, and then I show it to him if I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
This way, it cost you at the door.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and we talked. He goes, let me take it to my manager. I said, go ahead. The guy comes over, he goes, sir, and I said, I totally understand where you're coming from. And I said, are you a doctor by any chance? And he said, no. And I said, so you're asking me to put on a medical device. This is a medical device. And I said, I have no problem with that. And I said, who's going to be financially responsible if something happens to me? Would that be you? I said, can we get your name down and so that you can be? And he's just like, well, and I said, well, you might want to go talk to somebody about that because this could become an issue. Not on my part, but on yours. So he goes, can we just have this discussion in a separate room so we don't upset some of the other people? Sure. They gave me my own private office. and then every time I would go in there to get my car, because I had bought a car from there before, to get my car the oil changed, I would get my own office. And I'd be sitting in there and people walking by, they'd look at it and go, hey, how you doing? And I just pretended like I belonged there and then everybody left me alone. I'm surprised somebody didn't give me any paperwork to file.
Must be the new manager.
Yeah. I was in that area of the thing. And it was just funny.
That's crazy. Yeah. Everybody afraid. Like I tell her and she knows, my sisters will tell you from the time I was a kid, I said, I have no fear of death. Everybody's going to die.
Yeah.
If you're sitting around worrying about it all the time, You're not.
It's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy regardless.
Yeah, right. If you believe it or not.
Yeah. And that's why, like, even with some of this legal stuff that I've been doing, you know, people are like, well, why do you keep doing this? I'm like, because I want to test it out. I want to see if it works. You know, is it theory or fact? Right. Right now, it keeps being proven fact. Not all of it, but I mean, it's very, very interesting. We do live in interesting times, which is that Chinese curse. Yeah. You know, may you live in interesting times, and you know, we have to be proactive and learn how to stand on our square. Which again, I guess, is why that judge said, "What do you want?
What do you want?"
Yeah.
Now the people I do feel sorry for, you have the Chinese people. Why are you attacking these people? They didn't do anything to you. Yeah. The government did.
And my girlfriend's Chinese.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. You know, I've dealt with Chinese people most of my life. You know, they want, just let them, just want to leave me alone. I don't want to be I don't want to be captured. And then, you know, now they come over here. Oh, now we're going to kill you because what your government did over there. You know, they didn't.
But our government's becoming divisive in it too. I don't think Trump calling it the Chinese virus, that's where it came from. Yeah. How about the Spaniards upset 100 years retroactive to the Spanish flu? That's what it was called. That's where it came from. Dengue fever. Yellow fever. Yeah. You know, now yellow could be, now I don't know if it describes you getting jaundice because you got it or because it came from China, and I don't know. Right. I did a color analysis on my skin one time at Lowe's using their paint chips. Yeah, my skin color is bubble tea.
Bubble tea.
Yeah, I'm from the bubble tea nation.
That's pretty cool.
And I was actually at a post office in Piscataway, and there was me, this old woman, and a black girl, probably mid-20s she was, and I had the paint chips in my pocket, and they had like a hole in them so you could put it up to the wall to see how it, you know, looked. And I said to the girl, I said, "Can you do me a favor? I'm trying to figure something out." And I pulled these paint chips out. I said, "I want to see what the proper color I am." I said, "People keep calling me white," and I put like white. She goes, "No, you're not white." I said, "I can't be, because white is the absence of color." Right. And the old woman is like, a white guy and a black girl talking about color. This can't be good, and we're in a post office. And you can see she was just... so then... And we finally, and I said, "I think I'm this," and it was the bubble tea one. And she was, yeah. And then she saw I had some brown ones. She goes, "Can we see what mine is?" I said, "Yeah." So we were looking. And we finally settled on one that was as close as possible. And I said, "You can keep that." And then the woman over here is going, "Do you got mine?" Now
the one who's all worried.
That's right. Well, the whole point was, as much as they're all trying to divide us, you know, I use that as a way to show, you know, to make fun of our differences and laugh at them and almost celebrate them, because that's what makes us unique. Right. I don't want to be the same as everybody else. Oh. Why did you choose him? No, really, why did you? No. I mean, but you chose him because he was different than all the other people.
Yeah, figured I was insane. I belonged in an institution.
That's right.
This guy's getting hit in the head all the time.
Yeah. But I mean that was the whole point, and is, you know, is if you're like everybody else. I mean, in North Korea, you know, you have to have the official. Everybody has to look like Kim Jong-un.
Oh yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's they all. When you look at
I
the
can't
margins,
even do the haircut. I can't go there.
The margin I find so interesting, though, the way they're looking this, the head's going this way, the feet are going the other way. It's like you got to really practice that.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, we'll close you off. Okay. And nice having you on.
Thanks again.
Have a great day.
You too.